Hello, everyone. This is Hot and Heavy Direct Talk with your host, Professor owusu-nyamekye. And this week, as promised, we are coming your way again with another hot topic. Every week, before I do a show, I do synopsis and I do some small survey just to make sure that the topic is something that folks need. And who are the folks? Immigrants who live here. You could live in Germany, Japan, Australia, anywhere in the world. You are an immigrant. And these are topics that are geared towards you and your survival. We are not here to provide solutions, but we are here to help you make informed decisions as you sojourn in abroad.
Wait, I think I'm hearing it from them, not here. Take your time. Let's speak again. Cool.
All right. So I am in here with my guest, esteemed guest, and they are going to help me digest the issue of retirement. Do we plan to retire? How well are we ready? Where do we want to retire? What systems are available for us? What tools are available for us to help us retire? What do we do in terms of planning on how to retire? Well, I have here Reverend Dr. Asabe Abuaji. She is a Presbyterian minister here in Columbus, Ohio. Professor Zach Ngozea, a professor at Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio, but his campus is in Marion. He's from Kenya. I have here Lindora Kolu Howard Diawara. She is from Liberia and she works at the City of Columbus Department of Neighborhoods. Ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I put up something this week and I sent it to you all about some of the things that we are going to discuss. I think we are conflicted as a society who have traveled abroad to live here, and the issue of retirement comes in. A lot of people think that they want to retire, but where do they want to retire? I know, Reverend Asabe Abuaji, you are a retiree.
Yes.
So your expertise will come in handy here. How did you plan to retire?
How did I plan to retire? As a Ghanaian immigrant, the first day, in fact, even before I traveled, my thought was, I'm just coming to do my education and go back to Ghana. And after several years, I'm still here.
Amazing.
I'm still here, even though I've been back and forth. It's still in the planning stage. It's still in my mind. I'm still working. It is not a goalpost that is fixed there, but it's evolving. Even though I have a thought about where I want to be, as things change. For instance, my spouse that we were planning together died. So my horizon changed. My plans also changed. My mom is in her 90s, mid 90s. She's still alive. And I have siblings back there. My child, my son, adult son is here. So it is not like a goalpost that I'm shooting that goal of retirement through and then score a goal. It is a process. And so as I evaluate where I'm going to be, I'm looking at a lot of things. My health, where are the resources that will help me retire creatively? Which side of the world do I want to live if God gives me a longer life? And what will be the resources that will make me live and exit this world comfortably? So it's a process. I've been to Ghana. I went back to Ghana for about 8 years. After I've lived here about 20 years, and I left with my husband. All my plans were, okay, now we're going to live here and I can use my benefit back in my social security or whatever to live comfortably in Ghana. No, it's what didn't happen. So I'm back here. So I want to agree with Jim and Sally Conway, who said that if it's possible, a person should never retire. But you must plan about it, think about it, and evaluate your circumstances. And I think that is what I ever thought, that at 65, which is a retiring age in Ghana, I would never work. But it's not true.
Retiring age in Ghana is 60.
60, yes. So the 65 is compulsory.
Right.
So when I attained 60, I said, I'm still strong. I'm 70 plus, but I still feel like I have strength. I have the ability. I have the acumen. I should be able to. I'm not going to lie around retiring and being in bed. No, I got to do something, at least for my sanity. So to answer your question, I have stopped active working like every day, registering and marking. But even so, I still chip in here to do a few things as ministry to keep myself active and also to earn some money. So I have not completely retired yet.
Right. So if I hear Reverend Asabia, she's saying that it's fluid.
Yes.
But I disagree with her. But that shouldn't be my position. I'm here to listen to you, and our guests are also here to listen to you. Prof.
Yes, sir.
Do we as immigrants plan to retire? Because at some point, you're going to have to lay down your tools. You can't go on forever. I talked to a lady in Sweden.
Yes.
And she said, this is the time that I am going to do things that I want to do, not what the system wants me to do. And throughout our working life, we've been doing what the system wants us to do. But in doing so, do we plan? You've been a professor for so many years.
Yeah.
You've interfaced with the community. You are in touch with the community. You've talked to a lot of people. What is your assessment? Do we plan to retire?
I think it's normal that we do that. If we were back home, whether in Ghana or Liberia or Tanzania, Kenya, and we did not come abroad, and we pursued our professions back home. In Ghana, you said 60 or 65 years old. We could have, in Kenya, 65. We could have, or let me speak for myself, I could have retired at 65 as a teacher, assuming that I taught there. And then go on a farm, which is natural in Africa that we end up going back home to our farm. So is that something that we could have planned for? Yes, because we know very well that at 65 you have to retire and then assume a new life. But what is interesting here is that we did not start working there. As a matter of fact, we came here to go to school, some of us. The majority of the people that I know from home, from Africa, from the continent, who are here, the majority of them came as students or came for further education, and then eventually found themselves in various professions. And then that retirement age came 60, 65, and then we were somehow found ourselves in this society as people who are here. So here is a direct answer to your question. I think we should plan to retire. If we don't plan to retire, retirement age will be forced on us. And if it's forced on us and we are unprepared, and that is where the problem is going to come. Number one. Number two, and I know we'll go to this a little later on, but let me just say it now before I we got too far. We are heavily conflicted. I speak to many people, including myself, who are heavily conflicted because there is this home where we have cultural affinity with our people, where we still have our traditions and values and family members and lineage. And then we came up here as lone rangers, and then we created another family here as a hybrid, where we have wives or spouses and then children who really, especially the kids, don't have that connection. And that's why we go there once in a while to make sure that they know where home is. My two kids, fortunately, when you ask them where is home, they'll say Kenya. And then I ask them, where is your second home? They'll say here. And I've been lucky in that sense because I had to work. I had to work on that one because they were born here. They were born at Ohio State. So how do I make them think home is there, not here? Is because I had to work on that so that they're connected. Otherwise, I would have lost them. So this confliction to us, not to them, to us is this: do we belong there or here? Is home there or here? The home is there, but are we there? No, we are here. So what are we doing here? We are here because of the job and our children. Let's be honest. So who is the most conflicted person here? Are the immigrants. The children are not, who are born here especially.
Of course.
Yeah, but we are the ones who are always calling home, sending money home, cities home, kwacha's home, or francs home, or shillings home, because people want, I just sent money this morning to that country of Kenya. So, and yesterday I did. And what was it about? Oh, the water tank broke down, so we had to fix another one at the house. But I don't live there, but it's home, so I have to fix it. So this is this dualism sometimes can weigh on you. There's a time where we're going to have to decide: do we going to go there and come here just to visit, or do we stay here and just go there to visit?
But Prof, let me
Continue,
come in here
please.
for a second.
Yes, sir.
See, you mentioned something that the community is really it's plaguing the community.
Yeah.
The conflict.
Yeah.
Why would you call a place you have not lived over 20 years home?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to Lindora right now.
Please.
Because
continue.
you opened something that we
Yeah.
are going to go on, this conflict.
Yes.
We are living double lives.
Yes.
And next week, our topic is going to be this double life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You have lived here, have your kids here. Basically, you have every part of your family here, except the one extended. Those are in back home.
Yes, sir.
But you have lived here, have your kids here. Your kids probably have finished college. You still call a place that you have not lived for 20 years home. Lindora, how do we solve this conflict? How is it home for you?
Well, thank you. First of all, let me just say again, make a disclaimer. I'm here, even though I work with the city of Columbus, but I also just want to say that all of the views expressed here today are those of mine and not of the city. I sit here in the capacity as founder and executive director of a nonprofit called the Business for Peace Community Development Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to chime in on the retirement conversation as well, but just starting off with what you asked me.
It is the conflict
home
that is preventing us from retiring.
Well, I think generally, as folks would say also, that home is where the heart is.
Mm.
And I think the whole question about home, where home is also political. And it's a mindset. So it depends on what the individual thinks. Now, I'm a young woman and I have 3 kids. When the Reverend was speaking, I was smiling because I took him here to go to school. I was so excited. I'm going to get my master's and I'll go back and I'll continue doing what I'm doing. And
That
boom,
is what most of our folks say. Oh,
Yeah.
I will be here for 5 years, just 5 years, and I'll.
because we have already a plan. But like they
Mhm.
always say, the thing that is constant that never changes is change.
Mhm.
And so it talks about what we have control over and what we don't have control over. And those are some of the things, in my own view, that we struggle with.
Mhm.
And so we talk about home. Professor talk about having his kids and trying to put in their heads that home is not here, home is there.
But that's not home for them.
But exactly,
It's true.
that's
In
not
reality,
for
home
them.
is here.
Mhm.
And what I've heard young people say, young Africans
Yes.
or children of Africans, that my parents are from there. I'm not from there.
Is that a reality?
It's true.
You know,
That's
so
reality.
so these are reality, and it's change. It's intergenerational change also that we are grappling with. How we deal with it, all of those things. I think that's the crux of the matter. How we deal with these things. When I talk about going to Liberia all the time, I'm also back and forth. I have a foundation that's here, and I'm also working in Africa. So I have to keep going back and forth. And there are some people who say this woman is crazy. Why is she keep going there? But again, it's all about the mindset. For me, I have to keep going there because for me, that's an investment. That's where I call home also. That's where my family, that's where I have my family. That's where I have a big network of people that I've worked with. And I know that I don't want to go back there, go into a space where folks start to look at me and say, who is she? Or I start to wonder who's in this place that I grew up in. I've tried to maintain those connections. So I feel that I'm obligated to maintain my roots. And I'm obligated to make sure that my kids also know their roots. So depending on the individual and what they see or think of as home, their actions, the choices that they make will define their life and where they find themselves.
Great. So if I hear you speak, it is up to the individual and their state of mind
Exactly.
where they feel they want to be. And that is the same conflict that is plaguing our society. Before we do a show, I talk to a lot of people, both in the United States, not both, Germany, Sweden, Japan, because I was part of a group that made me know a lot of people throughout the world. I talked to these ladies there were two ladies and a guy. One of them told me that, look, my plan was to retire in Ghana. And so we invested heavily in a business. Do you know that for 10 years, they keep pushing money into the business, And as a result, the man says he's done pushing the money into the business. The woman says, well, what are we going to live on when we retire? Guess what? They have not done anything where they are, thinking that that business is going to look after them. And here they are, 65 years old. The guy is 65, the lady is 60 years old, thinking of resting. Where are they going to rest? Dr. Sabia, where are they going to rest?
Yes, that's a good question.
They have been pushing money into this business thinking they're going to rest in Ghana. And now, for 10 years now, that business has not provided anything to them. Meanwhile, they're pushing all their monies into this business. So where is home now? How do they retire? Let's come back to how do they retire with this instant? And mind you, there are a lot of Africans who are doing the same thing.
It's true.
A lot, all of us, including me, all of us are doing the same thing.
Mhm.
We keep pushing money into businesses that we don't even get returns, but we still keep pushing. How do we end this cycle?
So thank you very much. And taking from Professor Zaks, if you don't plan to retire, you'll end up being a chaos.
But they are planning to retire in this instance.
That's the point. So you have to be actively evaluating that duality did not start with us. Remember the story of Joseph when he had traveled to Egypt and the whole family, the whole country have come to live in Egypt. even their bones
Mhm.
were exhumed and sent back to Jerusalem or to their country. So it is inherent in us to want to go back to your roots, as Miss Ellen said. So that duality is you were born African, you were born a Liberian, you were born a Ghanaian, and you travel. So that your travel, your present location does not cut you off completely from your roots. But even as I'm evolving, even as I'm growing, my circumstances are changing. Now the debate is I'm looking at what will work for me now. Even though my roots are there, I need to be able to help the people who help me to be who I am now, whether they help me or not. All the resources that cumulatively help me to become who I am as a woman from Ghana, I need to give back. But when it comes to the grades, where you want to spend your retirement, you have to think about it as a person. You need to decide where your children are going to be so that you are not a loner. Suppose I'm 80 years and I want to go back to Ghana. I have a residence that I have in one part of the country in Ghana, but that's not where I'll live. So now, even as I'm speaking, I'm thinking of if I could afford that house and send it to, but it is impossible. So what I'm thinking now is positively, I'm putting it on market to have a small hamlet if I should retire in my hometown, so that I can have, and that house, that big house that you may be living in the US, it's not applicable when you are 60. Go to the home, the retirement homes now. People have sold their mansions and they are in cubicles. So we have to start looking at what will be relevant when you are 90. Will your children be near you to visit you? If they are not, what are resources that I want that will be sustainable to help me as a person? So I'm not thinking about just Ghana alone, but if retirement, if my social security alone is what I'm going to live on, what kind of home am I going to be living in? What kind of resources? If I'm old and I like fufu and banku, will the retirement home provide me that kind of food? So how am I helping my community to think positively that when hundreds of people of Ghanaians in Columbus retire and they are sent to their nursing home, what kind of food would they be giving us? Where are our caterers and business people who want to build in support of a nursing home that would be laudable, attractive to a Ghanaian retiree? So I'm talking and having conversation with people in the food business, in the catering business, so that tomorrow, when tomorrow comes and I'm not going to Ghana and I'm still living here, my retirement life will not be a life of misery. So we have to think ahead and make a decision that this energy that I have bubbling now is going to change. So what kind of city do I want to retire in? I've concluded that maybe I'll be better off retiring in America. And if it is so, what resources am I gathering? So my horizon is changing. If I went to Ghana, if I bury my mother today, then my interest going back to Ghana has minimized. She's my sole concern now because all my adult sisters, they have their children and they have their plans. They have not lived outside to have a taste that I have now. And if I'm thinking that my sisters and my nieces are going to take care of me, I should not forget that when I retire here and someone comes to clean my house, I have to pay for that person.
Yeah.
So I was talking to the host, telling him that We take our families for granted. That when I retire, my niece will take care of me, and you are not going to pay your niece. So they have a way of getting their payback anyway. You ask him to go and buy something small, and it takes the change because you have not paid the person and it's giving you services. So I'm resolving that. Look, Margaret, this may be your place of retirement because at least there's a system set up for you. But I should be able to travel back to Ghana and visit when I'm able and come back. If my bones are rotten and they want me taken, and as a minister of Presbyterian Church, if I die, the Presbyterian Church they have a place for me. I have a cemetery that I'll be buried in. So if I want my body to rest in a place that I'm not renting, I want my body to go back to Ghana. So there's still a continuum of thinking and processing and making choices. So it is not a goalpost. And now it's important for me to think aloud and make certain moves or changes in my lifestyle, in my thinking.
Thank you, Reverend Dr. Sabia. And I just want to remind folks that we are listening to Hard and Heavy Direct, and my guest, Reverend Dr. Sabia Lindora Kolu Jawara, and Professor Zach. We're also live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, as well as YouTube. So you can stream there and listen to the whole thing. Prof,
Yes, sir.
I'm coming back to you. And
Yes, please.
Reverend Asabia was talking about thinking broadly on where she wants to live. She talked about how when she sends, she goes back to Ghana and she sends people, they keep the change. And we see a lot of people who pack bag and baggage and say,
Yes.
oh, I'm going.
Yeah.
They fill out these containers.
Yes.
And in 6 months, we see them back again.
Yeah. I've witnessed that. Continue.
We see that continuously. And as if nobody is learning anything out of it. They pack, say, oh, I'm done. I've been here 40 years. I'm done. I'm leaving without any plan. And they put everything in containers and go, and the next 6 months you see them. Oh, bro, what's going on? Well, I came to visit their kids. Okay. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Then you meet them in the funeral. 1 year, they are still here. Not just visit, but they couldn't live there.
Yes.
But you call that place a home and you pack bag and baggage to go, but you are back again. Is it a mistake?
No, that's
Or is it lack of planning?
No, is that conflict I was talking about earlier. But look, this whole thing of being here is a blessing, but it's also a curse. It's a blessing because we are able now to think globally. We're able to get some education that we could not get back home. We have jobs, we have professions, we have houses, we have cars, and all these wonderful things. We have kids that we have raised here who have our names and come from our tribe and our lineage, but they are different. So that's a blessing, but it's a curse because as we boarded those planes to come this way, that was a severance between Africa and us in one way. And since then, we've been suffering from this disease of, do I belong there? Can I belong again? So this disease of belongingness has been diminished. As Right Reverend said a while ago there, that when her mother passes on, her desire to go home would be diminished. When we flew over here for the first time and dared abroad as we have done, and that was the beginning of that severing ourselves from Africa like this. And now we've been suffering from going back and having a sense of belonging, or going back and succeeding as if we had stayed there. Now, many examples that you just talked about, Prof, about people who have left here to go home, pack their stuff, go home. and come back. I know 10 people already that went and came back, and they always say, I'm following my children. They follow their children here, and then the children say, stay, and then they stay. And then the problem is that they did not plan for home before they went, and they did not plan for here. So you see how this thing is really conflicting us. So if you do not plan for home, knowing that home is going to change every now and then, we have political changes, economic changes. Our own relatives stand on us once in a while because we have what they don't have. So there's that change all over there. So you have to plan with that in mind. Am I going to be able to survive? As we speak, I have a friend who is from Sierra Leone. He every summer he goes on to finish his house. He just arrived there last Friday. We've been in communication. So his goal is once he's done with his job, he can go back to Freetown and stay.
Sierra Leone.
Mm-hmm. The children are here, 3 of them. But we have also discussed in the real sense, he's also aware that you can be there, but then maybe the situation changes. We have a very interesting caliber of people in Africa. We call them political leaders. You see, God bless them, but they've been cast already. So the problem is that they can just decide to destroy the country.
Right.
So we who are coming from some kind of consistency here in America for all these many years will go there and say, I can't put up with these riots and this political discordance here. So let me just go back. So here's observation. We have not planned and understood the realities of going back, which are always changing because of all these reasons. The market, the money, the businesses, the banks, the political situations that we run into, the cultural changes, the local understanding instead of the global understanding that we go with. So when we plan to go home, let's take all that in account. And where are you going to stay? In the village or in the city or whatever it is. And on the other hand, if you want to stay here, then let's, and I know we'll talk about this, and let's also try to plan on how we're going to stay here. It has its own serious challenges. There's no question about it. I'm going through that right now. Like, should I not? So for me, I've decided that I'm going to be bicontinental. I'll be there and I'll be here. So and we have a saying back home in my tribe that the Bokusu tribe in Western Kenya, that we are all living in this world, but the graves are competing for us. The graves are saying to each other, I'm the one who's going to give it. And the other one says, no, not you, I'm the one. So as the graves are competing for us, we don't know when and which grave is going to get you, the one here or the one there.
So
it's good to be planning for both.
Lindora, Prof is asking us to plan for both. I'm not sure if it's practicable or feasible, but this is where we find ourselves. Yeah. We are at the crossroads right now because it's inevitable. We have to do it. We cannot go on every day working the way we are working today. There's going to be a time we have to lay down the tools. Prof just said he knows about 10 people that packed bag and baggage and came back. We see them every day in our communities. We see them in funerals, we see them in outdoorings, we see them at church. Yeah. Life expectancy here is 77.5 years if you live in the United States. If this is so, do we have the luxury of time to do what Prof is saying, to plan for both? Do we, and mind you, we also live in double lives already. So that's it. And what do you need to plan? Finances. Do we have that luxury of the time? Knowing that life expectancy is 77.5 years old. Now, If by grace you are 80,
Mhm.
you know what happens. Reverend Dr. Sabia talked about nursing home.
Mm.
You're going to be eating what I have for you. By the way, this is not for you. This is what you're going to be eating when you are in nursing home. So you
Some
might start
vegetables. You don't
right
have
now.
vegetables in this place.
You know.
And survive.
So Lindora, what do we have the luxury of time? You
Well,
live in both cities. You live in Liberia. You live in US. You keep going back and forth. Now you are able to do it. But at 65, when you are tired and sick of work, which you are going to be, would you be doing the same thing? Now, flesh-wise, you can. It comes out to the bills.
Mhm.
Are you going to be able to pay airfares now and then? Now you can because you work. So do we have that luxury of time?
well, again, for me, it depends on the individual mindset and the choices they make. I'm from Liberia. I'm married to a Malian, so which means I have a third country.
Boy.
3.
Yeah.
Whew.
So because of all of those, Liberia, by the way, just 2 years ago got a dual citizenship, that authorization.
Congratulations.
After 170 plus years
Yes.
of struggling, we just got that passed 2 years ago. And every time I listen to the debates about dual citizenship, I said, these people are wasting their time. The world has changed so much, and so mentally I say to myself, I'm a global citizen also. I can be anywhere. I've been married for 18 years. Before I even met my husband, I always said to myself, when I get married as a Christian, I'm going to be in this church. There will be so many white flowers. I will be dressed up in my long dress. I imagine the dress that I will wear and how the ceremony will be and everything. Somehow I was planning towards that. And what ended up happening to me? I married a Muslim. I did not get married in the church. I got married at home. I had the pastors, the imam, everybody, the traditional leaders, my grandma, everybody came and they gave us their blessings. I planned and something else happened. So again, change. There are things that we have control over. I think when it comes to the discussion of retirement, the question is, what is this retirement? What is this thing that we're talking about?
Yeah.
Is it because somebody say that when you are aging, then there's retirement? When we look at the current trends, in this United States of America, there are a lot of young people that are becoming billionaires and retiring. They are working for themselves. The whole discourse around entrepreneurship, and people going towards working for themselves, it keeps increasing. As Africans, again, I talked about the choices that we make. I have relatives that have packed up also, gone to Africa, and they're right now they are at the point where they're like, should we come and we stay, because they didn't it boils down to the issue of financial security,
Right.
financial freedom. Did we save for that time? And sometimes you might just save, and say, well, I'm going to be able to do this. And something happens, boom, all of that money is gone behind one situation.
Right.
So I think it is very important to plan, but the choices that we make in terms of remaining connected with, our parents or our family members back there, I see that a lot of people also don't do that. There are many of us who have come to the United States and we didn't look back. And so when we talk about retiring to go back to Africa and you don't maintain that connection, then it's like, where do you even start? So again, it comes back to the choices that we make. I've been back and forth. I tell people I can go anywhere because of my work, because I've spent so much money on phone calls. Sometimes even if it's about calling a friend or relative in the village, if I can get to them or wherever, just to say hi. And for me, that is the investment. So when it comes to retirement, there's the political, there's the economic, there's the social planning and investments that we need to make. If we don't make any of those, we reach to a point where whether we are old, because most times we talk about retirement when we look at the old age, but as a young woman, depending on my own income today or whatever I'm involved with, I can say, well, I'm done working for somebody. I can work for myself and I can move on. And so it's all about that. And I think that's where the whole aspect of financial literacy comes in, where we as immigrants need to open up our minds. Through my foundation, I had a meeting at a church one day with we're discussing about some of the issues, the challenges that we are having. And even though we have issues within our own communities, we basically don't even have the time to talk about it. We are just working and working and working. And some of us have kids that are basically raising themselves or in the communities. And I said, when is this cycle going to end?
Yeah.
And one of the ladies in the room said to me, my cycle is never going to end until I die. And I said, oh, really? I said, well, interesting. If that cycle, if you tell me your cycle never ends until you die, it tells me that you are thinking about you and not the younger generation. Because we need to create pathways for them to come and follow pathways that will be different from what we are experiencing. And that's the intergenerational thing. So with all of these complexities, I think that's where the conflict comes from.
Yeah.
That's our culture. In Africa, we are used to taking care of each other. When you're the one from a family who's doing well, the family expects that you would take care of them.
That's right.
So aging, unless if somebody is working, then they say, oh, I will get my pension and I will rely on that pension. But generally, it's the family, you who's doing well, that is expected to take care of the others.
Yeah.
When you come to a society that is
Individualistic.
individualistic, for example, and
Yes.
not the community taking care of you, and you have to stand on your own 2 feet. You can't yell. You don't even know who your neighbor is in most instances. You can't even yell or ask for salt. And then we start, in Liberia, I can open my door and scream to the next person and say, I don't have salt in my house. But you can't do that here. So when we come, that's a cultural shock that we meet. And we find a system that's so organized and trying to grapple with all of this. I think that's part of the reason why we have the conflicts that we are dealing with. And so just creating the space as immigrants to talk about these issues, not just in a studio like this, but in communities, and talk about how we want to deal with it with our children and create better pathways for them. I think it's better. I say to my kids think, sometimes I look at it and say, you guys think your mom is crazy, right? But I'm not crazy. All of what I'm doing, I say, I'm taking you back to Africa. Take you to Africa, take you to some other place. That's because I can afford to do that. Or my husband and I can afford to take them out. There's some people who came that don't even have the papers. They struggle, they can't even go back. I met a lady recently who said she came here, her mother died, her daughter died. She could not go back. So
painful.
with somebody that's struggling to even find papers, and even working to pay bills at the same time. Retirement is not, thinking about retirement is not on their list. So we are all at different levels. We are all at different places. And so that's why I said retirement is political. You as the individual need to look at your context, look at what issues you're facing, look at what challenges you have, and make the kind of choices and take advantage of the options that are available. But most importantly, we have each other. We all have different experiences. And how just creating that space to talk about it. And that's why I said to you, Professor Owusu, that this, I think, is very good initiative. We need to talk about these things. We need to learn from each other.
We are going to, part of this is also going into the communities to talk about these things, about financial
It's very
literacy.
important.
Yes.
We will do focus groups and let people come out, because we as Africans are always inward, shy looking, that doesn't want to bring our issues up, because we have a proverb in Ghana that says that if your stomach hurts and I don't see your teeth, I don't see that your stomach is hurting.
It's true.
Right? So there are some people who have never ever even looked at their social security contributions. Never.
No.
But they are working.
Yeah.
They work every day and they've never looked. So if you have not looked at your contributions, how do you think of when do I get to rest? And you cannot go on and on and on and on every day. But so part of it is going to be reaching out to the community. I have a guest in here who is also you brought financial literacy and you talked about financial freedom. Somebody is on here. Chancellor Akwa, please unmute yourself. Chancellor. This is what happens when you do live shows.
No problem.
All right. So Chancellor Akwa is a CPA.
Yes.
Okay.
He lives in Virginia.
Mm.
He has been a CPA for about 100 years. I'm just kidding. But he's very experienced. His book of business contains corporates as well as individuals.
Mm.
He owns a university
Awesome.
in Ghana.
Mm.
It is forgotten the rankings in terms of nursing. Now, allied health, it is probably the second best, no, the fifth best in Ghana.
Wow.
Yes, and he gets a lot. He does taxes for individuals
Okay.
as well as he keeps corporate accounts. So he interfaces with a lot of Africans,
Yes.
a lot of
Yes.
immigrants in Virginia, throughout the whole country. He has some strong perspectives about this that I want him to share. Chancellor, did you find yourself?
You missed him again.
Hmm?
You missed him again.
No, he's on there.
Mhm.
He just has to mute himself.
Mm.
All right.
You are here.
Yes, my mic is unmuted now.
Yes, you can hear him, right?
Yes. We can
Good.
hear him. Yes.
Chancellor, you interface with a lot of African immigrants in doing their taxes. You have provided a lot of advice and counseling. Is it working? What do you see day in, day out? Because you've been doing this for the last 40 years. What do you see? Is the trend positive or negative, or it's still where you see things?
Thank you for inviting me on this. And I thank the panelists, Reverend and Reverend, I think. Is that right?
Reverend,
For your perspective you shared. As you are saying, it's a big dilemma for most of us in this part of the country. And we basically try to live a double life. So we are here, one feet is on the ice cold and the other one is on the heat. So it's always trying to balance that is the easiest thing. But as Reverend Doctor mentioned earlier, it's the perspective that you have and how you also try to achieve your perspectives. Yesterday, I had some reverend in my office, and he brought me a proposal from his church. The church is going through some turbulence, so they're asking them to cut down a 10% pay cut. And the choice is whether you want to take the 10% pay cut, and so the 10% pay cut is coming, but we also want to see whether you want to keep your 401k or your retirement thing, or you also, because the pay cut is coming, you want to take up your whole paycheck so that you can actually get more money in your account because you are getting a 10% pay cut. So upon discussion, we decided, look, when you take the whole money and you don't contribute to your 401k, the money you get spend it. And you may not, by the time you get to a retirement, that money is not there. It's not going to be there now working for you until you go to retirement. So the way you look at things that, hey, I need to be able to plan for my retirement, it may mean that you may, in addition to getting the pay cut, still continue to contribute to your 401k, even though it will reduce your take-home pay. So it's usually the perspectives that people have. I think it's always laudable that we are here and we are thinking at home, because for most of us, where we came from, we probably are the only beacon, the beacon of light, and everybody is dependent on us. But so we need to, somehow we are obligated to, not obligated, but there's this moral conviction that we have that somebody when we were growing up had to get us some food or get us some water. Sometimes your parents are not available or there's no food at home and stuff. So you always have to think about that part. But we are here, and as we have been discussing, most of us, even though we came with a desire that we are coming for 5 years and we are going to go back, we have been here for years and we have been here for years and we haven't gone back, and we may not even ever go back. So while we are still fulfilling that moral obligation over there, we need to do the planning of how we can stay here without, in case something happens and we are not able to go back as we have planned. So planning and making sure we have taken care of the things that we need to take care of here is so critical, and it's critical in all aspects of our lives. I have had a lot of people who are my clients just have sudden death because in their quest to acquire money here and to do projects in Ghana, they don't even want to buy health insurance, something which is critical for their lives. And all of a sudden you hear the person has passed. And the reason he passed is very small thing, maybe a colon cancer. If 10 years ago he have done any colonoscopy because he had health insurance, that could have even prevented this event. So there are certain things, because we are always thinking of going to build a big house at home, we don't take care of it here. We don't take care of ourselves. We try to squeeze everything else. And as Reverend Doctor said, sometimes our children are not even, we don't even raise our own children because we are working 3 jobs, and we come in, we go.
I think Lindora said that.
Okay. So all these things are part of the thing that we are not planning. I think planning for retirement is not only for the day of retirement, but even for the process. Yes, most of us may not be able to retire, or we don't even want to retire. I have a doctor friend just left my office, and his wife decided he was going to retire last year. So he retired, stayed home for about 6 months, and now he's become restless because the pattern where he wake up in the morning, take a shower, go to work, come back, is no longer there. And after watching so much TV and watching, reading so much soap opera and everything else, you still feel like you are capable. So now he's gone back and reduced maybe his workload, and now he's working as a school nurse instead of first time working Blue Cross Blue Shield as a claims examiner and all those other things. So we just
is that good for our health, our stress level?
No, what is it? He has reduced the stress level. Now he's doing something menial. He even tried to drive the school bus, but he couldn't handle the school bus. So he wanted something because he cannot stay at home. This thing, because she has retired, the husband hasn't retired, and you cannot leave your husband here and go back there. So they basically, both of them has to be planning on it. I just did social security stuff for the husband just while he left when you called me earlier on. So in terms of retirement, we need to have a clear perspective where we want to retire. We want to retire in here or we want to retire there. I think for most of us, because of certain things, it's very few people are able to just pack up and go like that. They go and they never come back. A lot of us, because of our health conditions, we can't even stay there for that long, because as we have been working hard here, we have developed certain health conditions that when you go, the health system is not going to be able to support you and pay for you. So I'm thinking that, yes, we need to plan for retirement, either here or there. If you are going to go there to retire, you probably don't want to burn all your bridges here. In the past, some people would collect 3 or 5 credit cards and then max it up because they plan they are going and they are never coming back. And then they go in about 5 or 6 years, they are back here because they have not planned very well. So we need to do exactly what we are doing. I may retire, but I may not retire from America. I may retire because I will, I will cut back on my workload and try to enjoy 1 or 2 days of volunteering, as Reverend Doctor is saying, or be involved in some social and community aspect of things which would keep you active, because sitting down and doing nothing basically would help you to deteriorate faster. But
why do you sit down and do nothing? Because you didn't plan. People plan 10 years before they retire. That after I retire, every 3 months I'm going to travel. Every 2 weeks I'm going to do this. You have to plan. So why do you sit down and do nothing and just watch divorce court every day? You get bored.
But it's also part of the thing is the process of retiring. You need a financial plan so that you know you can retire properly, and you have you need to plan how much money. If you are spending, you have to assume maybe you need at least 60% of your current earnings to be on retirement.
That is why hold on. That is why I asked you. You do a lot of, you are not a financial planner, but you do a lot of taxes for a lot of individuals. And you always advise them, hey, do this. Based on your experience, are they taking your counsel, or you think it's the same and they are doing the same thing, and after 10 years, you see them at the same place that you told them not to be?
Well, I'll put it this way. Depending on the level of education and knowledge of those people, I'll say the people on the upper high with a little bit of education listen to us. The people who are hopping from job to job, they don't. And in fact, yes. And in fact, because of that habit, they are the people who get into trouble a lot. They have 3 or 5 jobs. They are not having enough taxes even taken out of their paychecks. So anytime you do their taxes, they are owing money, because the tax system is on hierarchical. If the more money you are making, the higher taxes you are paying. So if you are making $30,000, you'll be paying only 10%. But if you are doing 3 jobs and making 30,000 on 3 jobs, you're getting $90,000. Your tax is about 24%. And when you add all of this up, they owe money. And when they owe money, that's why they all do all the other things that we can't even speak on here. Asking people to fix tax returns for them. They may not come to a professional like me because they know you can't get it, but they will go to somebody on the wayside and do it. And then you are there in the next two or three years. IRS will write them. They don't have the support. They can't find the person. And because they didn't plan. And if they are doing that on their taxes, definitely they have not even put any money in their 401k. People that, and the first thing I see anytime I see a W-2 is, does your work have a pension? If they do, I said, then please contribute to the max of the 401k, because that's free money that you are getting to save, that you are not paying taxes on it currently. And most people don't do it. Those who do it effectively, by the time they are going on retirement, they have earned more than $500,000, $1 million in retirement. And with that, they can actually have a better lifestyle after they are not actively working. And they are the people who can do the travel, and they can do the other things that we are talking about here. But it's basically a question of planning.
So the people that don't do it, and year in, year out, they come back to you again. They are working 3 jobs, not contributing enough to 401k, and they owe money, but they have 3 jobs. Where are they sending the money to? Back home, right? It doesn't matter. Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, they are sending it back home.
It can be. It may not be back home either. Maybe their expenditure here, there may be something that they are doing. Some people have gotten into some other habits, gambling, all kinds of other things. So there are many other things that affect people's finances.
Okay. All right. I will. You were going to finish a sentence. Do you want to finish, or you want me to come back to you?
I can't even remember.
Okay,
That's it.
drink some tea, and I'll come back to you because we are going to touch on something that you also have expertise on later on. So I'll come back to you in a short while. Lindora. So this week, I talked to a lady. She lives here, as in Ohio. Don't want to reveal too much. She has a 10-bedroom house back home. She goes there. She hasn't been there the last 2-3 years. Her kids don't want to have anything to do with where she comes from. We'll go there and visit for a few days, but they don't want to do anything there. Okay. When we finish talking, and her husband doesn't want to have anything to do with it because scared of armed robbery, doesn't want to deal with the traffic, his health as well. When we finished talking, I realized that I just did a math, just a simple math, and I realized that she may have sunk in $300,000 in that 10-bedroom house because she described it where it is in their hometown. I know the place. She is 72 years old. She's actively working. And I said, so are you going to? I thought she was retired. I was looking for her to do something else. She said, oh, no. I have to go to work. I have 2 jobs. Okay. Retirement, okay?
72.
Yes. She's working. And she said, my brother, this show that you are doing, I can't tell you how important it is. If I knew that this would happen, my husband wouldn't have any interest in that building. I would not be going as frequent as I thought. My kids wouldn't have anything. Why would I put a 10-bedroom house in there? Just do 2 bedrooms and put the rest of the money into my 401k. By now, I could have retired at 60 years old. It is not just her. A lot of people are doing it. You just heard Chancellor Akwa say it. People don't take the counsel. What do we have to do to get people to think about you? I'm coming to you because you talked about financial literacy. You talked about financial freedom. And he also talked about 401k. There are a lot of people who I have talked to, they don't even want to hear about what is 401k. Quick, don't talk to me about 4. But that is your life. It's free money, it's not taxable. And excuse my French, the white man says it is good to have 401k. That is why he's contributing on your behalf. You have not done anything. Just by virtue of you working there, they are contributing for you 4%, 5%, 6%. Match it up. Why are we not taking this advice?
It's all about the whole thing of the education and I'm looking for the word. It's about mindset.
Mindset, yeah.
Sometimes I have had that experience where you try to talk to someone about their own good. And because of the many voices they hear, they have to decide which way to go. They decide that you're not telling them the right thing. Or maybe your suggestion is more complicated. I think individuals, have to make that decision. That's how life is. The key thing, like you said, this person, 10 bedrooms, what do you want to do with 10 bedrooms? Again, it comes back to why, or what was the initial thinking?
People have 6 houses.
To go and live in there. If you put that on rent, that's a lot of money. You can generate income from there. I have my family, we have a home back in Liberia. We have a home in Liberia. I mean, in Mali. We have a home here. In Liberia, my ancestors are there. And I say to them, just make sure you don't burn down my house. But don't expect me to keep sending you money. I invested in them. Go and make business. Figure out what it is that you want to do. I'm not going to sit in America and keep sending money to you. I did that for some time. I said, if it's about paying for school fees, I will find that money and send. But don't call me and tell me you want to go to school. I should send you transport. That's not going to happen. I invested in them. I gave them money. I opened like a what we call the Susu Club. I said, put your money in there, let it roll. At the end of the year, don't call me for Christmas money. You have money saved. That's it. You're on your own.
You also say susu.
Yeah.
Oh, we
In
also say
Nigeria, we say
susu.
susu. I opened a susu
Okay.
club, and I will send money. I say, I'm also there. That money that's there, if there's money for the family, if there are issues, emergencies, take it, do this, do that, and don't bother me. Don't tell me about transport money. Go and make business. Don't burn down my house. In Mali, we recently put the house on rent. That's income. So it's about the individual, the couples, what they are thinking about. I have a relative who just died, my understanding was she worked 3 jobs, doing everything, sleeping less hours, just investing in Liberia, built a beautiful house and everything, and was so excited, came back that she's ready now to go. Heartache, take her to the emergency, died. The question now is, who's going to live in that house? The husband doesn't have interest there. So I think creating the space, again, I'm a person that believes in dialogue. They say you can take the horse to the river, you cannot force it to drink. When I was growing up as a child, I had an uncle who would say, you tell the child, poop is on the palm kernel. They said, on the palm kernel. They say, but it's on it, it's not inside. I want to see what's inside. Then that's when we get the expression, experience is the best teacher. So you will have to pay for you have to pay the price for the decisions that you've made. But I think as a community, as the African community, as immigrants, as refugees, all of us coming here, we need to make that extra effort to learn from each other. People have these experiences. Why do we keep making the same mistakes? It's like having the elders or the wise ones, and you have the young ones who think that the elders, they were not wise enough, so they are where they are. So we, the younger ones, we will run and pass them. It's like a kind of human thing. So just creating a space to talk about these, share stories, tell that story, use this platform. Go to the community. I'm glad you said you have that in the community. Go to the community. Let people hear from each other, because from my own experience, sometimes you think you have a big problem, but you listen to the problems of the others, you're like, wow, I thought mine was worse. So sometimes people just learn from listening to each other, and then have the experts come and say what this system is about here in America.
Right.
What gives us that advantage that others in Africa don't have? Because we have so many opportunities. There are so many options available to us that people in Africa, most of our people in Africa, don't have. And so we find ourselves to be very fortunate. But if we come and want to do laissez-faire thing, and it's like, well, I don't care, I just want to go and bypass the system will catch you. That's what I know about the American system. No matter how long you go around it, there is that point where you say, oh, they got me. So yeah, we have to make our own decisions, and we got to pay the price for those decisions we make. Unfortunately, we have kids who will end up following the same path. And so to change that, we need to really intentionally educate our community and talk about these things. But the challenge also is that sometimes we don't get us because we're working 2-3 jobs. We never seem to have time. And we talk about time so passionately. I got to go to work. This is for your own good. So there are many ways, but also tackle the young people, because I think they have a different thing. They have a different mind.
We'll bring them to the studio.
Exactly.
And parents as well.
Yeah.
We'll bring them to the studio. So just a quick reminder, you are listening to Hot and Heavy Direct Talk. And my guest, Reverend Dr. Asabia Boaji, Reverend Zach Young-Giza, Professor Zach Young-Giza, and Lindora Kolu Howard Diawara. And you have been listening to them for the past hour now. Reverend Dr. Asabia,
Yes, sir.
We've been talking about investment, retirement, investment. Chancellor talked about how people are not listening to his advice. Lindora also talked about it being an individual thing, which partly I agree with you, partly I don't, because as a reverend minister, I'm sure you have conducted a lot of burial services that were not pleasant. These are folks that did not plan as we're talking about, and it became a community affair. How many times have you on the Ghana Council said, hey, somebody died, we have to contribute?
Go fund me.
We do that every day. And these are people who live in our communities. My question to you is, there is not a single country in Africa that has a stronger currency. All the currencies are getting weaker and weaker and weaker every day, every year, government after government. Why do we still keep putting investments in there, hoping it's going to give us anything? That is hinging on our retirement too, because we had Chancellor talking about people who have put a lot of stuff in there and they don't even know if they're going to live there or here. I just told you about a lady who has 10-bedroom house, who right now doesn't know what she's going to do. You talk about renting. We talk about renting too. Why do we keep putting our investments in a place like that when you know that every government, every year, your currency keeps depreciating every day? Now, anybody knows any country in Africa that has a good currency? I don't know. Why do we do that?
Because of hope.
And in business, you know, I teach business.
Yes. See,
Business hope is not a strategy.
oh, hope keeps
going.
It's faith. It's not strategy. If
No.
we're strictly business, hope is not strategy.
See, if you don't have hope, then you will not even start living.
No, I'm not saying you shouldn't have it.
No,
It's not a
so-
strategy. It makes you feel good, but it's not a strategy. It doesn't do anything for you. It just keeps your sanity going.
And without your sanity, you are not alive.
Well, I'm a businessman, so
So,
it's not a strategy for me.
Even if you're a businessman, you need to have hope. And that complex duality that we're talking about. See, when I grew up in a family house that was blown apart, so we're living in half of the building. So in my growing psyche, the first thing I want to do is build me a house, a comfortable house. And so I decided that I thought that, look, I'm going to build a duplex, one to live in and one to live on. That was my mindset. At least I should have a comfortable place with my husband and I and a family, and that other duplex, that will be rental quarters that people will be renting, and I'll be using that money because I didn't have retirement in Ghana, and I had not worked consistently in one job accumulating. And that's also one thing that I wanted to bring out. Some places will not transfer your pension plan to another job.
Yes.
So the disconnection of working 2-3 jobs that people might not even know that they cannot cumulatively gather all that they have left in the places. So it didn't them in. So what am I saying? The hope that in future I'm going to go back to my roots. So it's important for me to do something out there, even though the politics, the economy, and all the things that you listed are bad. I am in a position here where that I can at least establish something. So that duality is still working on. So, and in Akan, we say that we have a type of trap. Kuntushaya ekonechi. When you pull the catapult and let the string go, it comes back to you. So you have to make sure that there is something that you can go back to if you fall back. And unfortunately, I'm using that example of the 10 bedrooms. The mindset is, if I build just 2 bedroom, I come from a family. When someone comes, where is that person going to stay? So bigger the better. But if she knows,
is it no more of a status thing?
Wait. Because you've gone to Abrochiri, you have a status.
Abrochiri is because you've traveled abroad.
When you travel abroad, you are better, by all means better.
Of course.
You have seen the world in a different perspective. So you think that, oh, if I'm able to build 10 rooms, All my children will have their bedrooms. I will have a living room. I have guests. So that is that grandiose image at the time.
Mhm.
But today, it's not different from a rich man who built a castle. And when he grew up and he's retiring, he cannot stay in that house and he's going to have to reduce it to a smaller place that they can be managed. So it is not different. So what we need to know is when I'm proposing, when I'm projecting to my future, I don't have to think about just today, but in 10 years, in 5 years, if I have to go back, that building that I don't have an elevator in the house,
Mhm.
am I going to be able to take the stairways?
Your knees will be crumpling by then.
And so if I'm building a house for now, if I have the money to build a house, I'm thinking of one flat that I can walk in and walk out.
Mhm.
I'm not looking at the bath, the jacuzzi that I cannot jump into.
Walking bath.
I want to think about in 10 years. And so we need to think about what will be workable for me.
But we think about all this and construct all this, and yet we still live here. We never go there.
So even whether there or here, because we have that duality of who we are, the discussion should be that don't cut yourself out that as for me, I've come to US and this is where I'm going to land. This is where I'm going to live. That is it. Because
When you grow old and you are in nursing home, you'll be eating salad. You'll not be eating fufu.
wait, you know,
Not fufu then.
it might even be that you are just going to visit a family or an occasion, and then you couldn't come back for a condition that you could not fly back. What happens then?
Yeah. What happens?
Because people have traveled back, and because of something that they never planned, they have been grounded. And if you are grounded, you have been overseas, and everybody expects you to be able to have at least a small room to yourself, and you don't have it. How would that psyche be like? So because of our hope, we have to think appropriately, considering if I'm going to be living here for the rest of my life, what am I putting in place? And for me, my experience, going back to people who pack bag and baggage and go, it's not an error. You've gone through that. You feel it's like a big tree which has been uprooted. That tree will not survive.
Mm-mm.
So you have to think of, if you have to transplant part of it, leave part of it here, and go and survey. After all, Nehemiah, when he was going to build that building in Jerusalem, he had to do the survey and evaluate the circumstances around that. We don't do that. We think, oh, I'm tired. Most often, we are frustrated, we are tired, we are depressed, and we think God, wherever we came from is going to receive us. You are an old oak tree, and you are transporting yourself, ground and everything. It doesn't work that way. So what I did with my husband was that we had worked here and were so frustrated to the neck. And my late husband was also a minister. One day we just decided that we didn't even know where we were going.
You went on hope.
And that hope was good because it kept us alive.
6 years.
So we went and we said we're going to give back. That was what kept us alive. We're going to give back to the land. We have learned so much. My husband was a biblical scholar, very good scholar, biblical scholar.
You want to learn
He
very
could,
soon.
yes, I'm going to learn. So what happened was we realized that, honey, we should start thinking about how our children will the transition should be. So people who want to come, if they are a couple, let one person one of them stay here.
Oh, that's another
Wait.
thing.
Let them have a ground here so that when you are sick, my husband didn't even want to have his green card before it. I said, Annie, if you are sick and I have to bring you here, you need a document that you can easily travel back for your health. And lo and behold, that's what happened.
Look at this.
So he could come back here and get his treatment and go back. Your children are here. If you pack it, and Calvin gets married and he has his children, and your wife doesn't have a paper to come back, how is she going to be able to support her grandchildren? So it has to be balanced. You have to think afar, and you have to have hope that if building 10 room house is not going to augur well, at least have something that you can call home and reside in, or turn it into a financial
Income generating.
income. Because my house, I have tenants there. And I'm thinking, if I had my way and I want to go and live in Ghana, I should have it turned into bed and breakfast. So we have to think globally. We have to think that this is where I come from. But at this time of my life, this is where I want to go to. And we need to encourage one another. Because we have suspicion of the system, we fear the system.
Let me catch you on that.
Thank you.
The system. Sorry, I have to catch you on that.
Thank you.
Prof.
Yes.
So there are safeguards for us to retire. Every job that you have by law has to contribute to Social Security. How often should we be looking at Social Security? I have a position that the very first day you have a job, that is the very first day you start planning for your retirement. Because the income you get goes into, if you contribute to 401k, goes into Social Security and goes into some of your pensions that IRA, whatever you have set up yourself. All right. Most of our people sometimes just up and goes, oh, I'm going to do my project. 3 months. Live in Liberia, Ghana, Kenya, Togo, whatever. But they don't know that if you are not earning income in that 3 months, you're not contributing. What should we be doing with Social Security? How often should we be looking at our Social Security? How should we use Social Security as a yardstick to plan for our retirement? Because if you think that you are building something in Kenya and you leave the country for 2-3 months, you are not contributing.
No.
So there's a gap. And if you are going to be doing that for the next 10 years, you ought to put pen on paper and calculate how many months have I lived outside. That means you are not contributing. Unless you are paying Social Security where you come from. But we all know that when we go out there, nothing comes back here. So how often should we use, or why should we use Social Security as a yardstick? How serious should we take that?
Prof, this issue is very massive. It's the whole issue of financial literacy, number one. Number two is that we come from a tradition where this kind of thinking, this kind of planning is not something that comes easily for us. It's not that we don't know, we cannot do it, but it's not something that we used to. Coming from rural agrarian societies where we've done things traditionally for many, many years, that is the extent that we can plan. That is the extent that maybe our knowledge about finances. We're living in a country that is believes in financial literacy, that believes in projections, that believes in taxes, that believes in accountability. But we just came in here and we just found ourselves in here. And sometimes we're just swimming, knowing where we're going. So I think this whole thing of, I think Chancellor Akwa talked about, maybe he made reference to it. We need to be able to have financial literacy. Let me give you a good example that I've just been thinking about here. My neighbor is probably about 70. She's probably 80. She's Indian. Very
Prof,
close.
speak a little bit louder.
Yeah, very close to me. Let me put that. She's very close to me. So she invited me to go to their temple. And when I went there, I was shocked because number one, it is way up north in Powell area, but it was young people, middle-aged, older, all the generations were there. Number one. Number two, these folks have a network. They have a system in place here. They have been able to recreate their own Indian society here to the extent that they really work very well together in terms of business, all the professions. So I kept going back and having an interest in how is this organized. And I found out one thing is that they felt that if they are united, they can survive. And if you're looking for bringing people together and unite them, then you also bring together all kinds of expertise and all kinds of knowledge and all kinds of experiences. And then in that unity, you're going to have something come out of it, which is collective information, collective experiences. And then I'll tell you something else that will surprise you. She welcomes me to her house every morning. You know, she's nice. And Mr. Zach, you want to get some tea? And I go up there. When I go to her house, the programs on the TV that she's looking at, and none of them are CNN or ABC or Fox. They're all India. And we're watching Indian news, and we're watching how Modi did. He came back, you know, he won this time without a landslide, but you know, he's running. So and then she's talking to all Indian people, you know. So sometimes she forgets I'm not Indian. She speaks to me in that language. And I say, oh, excuse me. So are we Africans united? Are we congregating? Are we bringing our collective knowledge and expertise together? Can we have an all-African Congress here in Columbus, Ohio, where we just, you know, get up and say, look, you may not like this, but you're going to die one way or the other. And should your death bring us a burden, bring your children a burden, why don't we plan? And this country allows you, it has resources to do things like that. So I think the whole idea is, how do we get our people together? We have churches, we have civic groups here. How do we start talking about, can we be one? And forget about all these, we have these Ethiopians here, Kenyans here, Somalis on their own, doing their own thing, and Ghanaians and Nigerians. Why can't we just come together and talk about these things? Because these things cut across all those nationalities that we have, or ethnic groups that we have. Can we be like the Indians? Because they buy from each other. They go to their own doctors. I mean, these people are deep. You're talking about how neat they are and united. So a topic like this to them is easy because they have financial literacy already. They have doctors in there. They have financial advisors in there who will make sure that these older people who are going to the nursing homes that we're taking care of. But for us, we're beginning. We are scattered. And we're beginning now to realize that, wait a minute, this is a problem. What do we do now? You know. So to answer your question, we need to get together. We need to unite ourselves. We need to talk about things that are serious. To answer that more pointedly, financial literacy is a must in this country if you're working.
Chancellor, please unmute your mic. It keeps coming back to the cash. Then you are the cash man. Chancellor.
Okay. Professor, what you said, you hit the nail right, or what the hammer right on the nail.
I knew you were going to say. I knew you were going to say that.
Several years ago, in my about a generation ago, my younger days, and I was a member of a church which had quite a number of people, about 10,000 people, and I was appointed the chair of the Christian education department. One of the things I started doing was holding a monthly financial planning seminar. It was very, very successful. In fact, it was also, I think, the beginning stages when I was starting my business. So a lot of those people are still my clients. They bought houses. We had different topics. We can do how to buy insurance and go through the different type of insurance, health, life, uh, whole life, universal life. We went through buying houses. When you want to buy a new house, some of the tax credits that are there, where you can even get a $10,000 break from your IRA. So sometimes if you plan it very well, you can transfer some of your money from your 401k, which doesn't qualify, and then put into an IRA, and then you can use that one to buy the house, and you get a $10,000 credit that you don't even have to pay the penalties or pay the money back. So there were various tax planning seminars we did. It was very, very successful. The problem we have here is that we are so fragmented. In fact, when you see another Ghanaian, and if you don't even approach a person and say, "Oh, are you from Ghana?" they will just walk by you. So there's a big problem in terms of our unity and how we can organize that. We probably can do it under the umbrella of some church organization and invite the community in the whole area. Like one church may be doing it in Columbus, and you can invite all these other Ghanaians that can come. I'm sure that there are a lot of people who may be saying, "Forget yourself. What? I don't have time for this kind of nonsense." But there may be some people who might come, and because they will be touched with what could be presented there, they would also continue to come on a regular basis, or as they can. But there's a big need for financial literacy. I tell you, from the work that I do, most of our frustrations on a yearly basis, year to year, is that the people coming here, they know nothing about it. Some of the people don't even know how much paycheck they get, and so they don't even know how to plan. In fact, it's even worse now that everybody's paycheck goes to the bank, so you don't even know how much money. You just keep spending until you write a check and it doesn't pass. It bounces back. Then you realize you don't have money there. They don't have common things like budget and all those other things that we used to do. Some of these things are common sense, but sometimes when you put paper and pen to do a budget, it's a very big eye opener that you realize, oh my gosh, this is what I do every month. So those things we have to do, I think, and we are so spread out in the communities. But if we have, we can organize something like this in our own communities, it will be very, very helpful. There are some big churches out here. There are Catholic churches. There are the Pentecost churches. They are all huge, have maybe 500 congregants. And the people need this knowledge. They need the knowledge very well. And we will have to find a way to go into the community. I'm sure not many of them will sit on a webinar or webcast like this, but when you are doing it within the church or something like that, so they may find some time to come. So it's a very, very important topic. And those of us who are talking about it now should have to explore ways that we can actually be in the community to help it. I personally told everybody I don't even want Ghanaian clients. So sometimes when you, because of all the troubles that they give me, but sometimes as we are talking about now, we can't just keep the knowledge that God has given us under the bushel and let our community suffer.
All right, Chancellor, thank you. This topic is, I did not realize it's so deep until we started talking about it. So we'll probably have to come back again. But in the interest of time, I would like to go round for last word from everybody so that we respect people's time. Reverend Dr. Sabia, you go first, please.
Well, it's important to think about retiring. Just as we enter the earth, we are going to end, we are going to exit. So it's important to pause and say, how am I going to end? And if death does not come too soon, and age, we want to live with good age and a healthy, meaningful lifestyle, that is important that we plan and have hope and also trust in God. We cannot just believe and have hope and not plan, because even God planned in creation, he did one thing at a time. So I want to encourage people, and those of people who have gone and packed and went back and come, it's important for them to rethink about how to incorporate where they want to spend their retirement.
If it is not late.
There's nothing too late. You can start from where you are and don't give up, because what if you are not going to die in the next 3 years? You can still plan. And
life expectancy is 77.5. So.
But others are going 90 years. So even if you are going to spend one day, you need to sit down and say, what am I going to do today? And what will work for me? And with prayer and community. And I think that we want to encourage one another to build that consortium of
Unity.
Sharing and encouraging one another for this good cause.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent. Lindora, any last words?
Well, I have a couple of last words. First of all, I think the whole thing of going back and forth, belonging, as Professor said, is not a disease, it's not a curse, it's an opportunity. I see it as an opportunity in the sense that we are here, we have access to so many things, we have an opportunity to impact our countries, our families, our communities back home. If you look at African Americans, for example, they have a history where they came from Africa. And a lot of them, they are sat with an African American friend. And he told me that he went to do the, what is this thing where that tells you where you go? The name is slipping. Where you were born.
The DNA
ancestry.
Yeah.
And this guy was so excited that his results showed that he had roots in Africa.
Yeah.
Not just in Africa, but he was from Togo. He said 15% in Togo and this percent in this country. The excitement in his face, I felt chills on my, we have this as an opportunity. We don't appreciate that. We don't see the value. We don't see what we have as a value. Others see us. There are so many Americans here, African American, white African Americans, white Americans that see us. Who are these people that come in that say they are struggling, and before we know it, boom, they have big homes, they have big cars, they have this, they have access, they can fly, they can go back and forth. People are trying to understand us. We don't see that. So we don't see that as a value. We don't see that as an opportunity. The other thing is that I talk about change. There are things that we have control over. There are things that we don't have control over. The things that we have control over, we need to, as Reverend said, we need to reevaluate. How are we doing things? I talked about choices, the choices that we make, our lifestyles. The Chancellor alluded to that. The kinds of lifestyles. If you think that going to America, all of us come here knowing that America is the land of opportunity. We all say that. But when you come and you see that because it's a land of opportunities and you want to live large, buy the biggest and most expensive cars, right? Live in the biggest home, and you're not thinking about your tomorrow. For me, the word retirement is, I don't even know. My husband asked me one day, where would you want to live where the kids are all grown. I say I can live anywhere. I don't even care. Because if you save and you prepare for the unforeseen, you prepare for emergencies, it doesn't matter where you find yourself. Once you have money in your bank, once you have money saved, once you have investments, you can go anywhere. You could go and live in India. For me, like I mentioned my marriage plans because I had plans. It never worked. As far as I know, you said you think something is going like this, it turns the opposite way. So I just say to myself, there's no need. So having options, retirement, investing back home, maintaining relationships, because that's where confusion can come in. If you don't have contacts with anybody, think you'll pack up and go back to Africa and everybody open their arms to you. It's going to be a challenge. The last thing on financial literacy, as important as it is, not just going, I think it's not just important to go to the churches or within the communities to talk about it. We need to talk about it in our homes. I started talking to my kids about financial literacy. My husband at some point was like, you keep talking to these children about money. I said, there's a reason why. What we didn't have is what I want to give them. I want them to see that. And interestingly, 2 years ago, Ohio made it, there's a law. It's mandatory that no one graduates from high school without that financial literacy. Because in as much as we think that everybody in this country know their own system, the American borns don't know their own system. A lot of them don't know. So you have that law. So we are not the only ones struggling. There are people struggling. But again, when we come together and we bring together everybody with the expertise and we can learn from each other and share, it's very important. Today, I have my 17-year-old daughter who goes to work. I monitor her account and I told her, you have your savings and you have your money to spend. If you go into that savings and you just spend like that, then I will go in there myself and I will take and go to a restaurant and have fun. I said, you need to think. You're preparing to go to college. You need to think about other things. So just saving for emergencies. I think that's the mindset, because somebody could retire at 30, depending on how much income they have. Somebody could retire at 40, 50. Somebody could retire at 70. In this country, I've seen American borns go to work. They're 80 years old. They're still working. So it's not just us struggling with this. So we shouldn't make it to seem like an African thing. It's a human thing. There are 80-year-olds in this country still driving them. Like, what are they doing? These are real. So just creating the opportunity, and I think you have created this opportunity for us to come in and talk. So I just want to leave that with us. But yes, this conversation needs to continue. And again, it comes back to us as individuals, what we need to do, because if we don't do the right thing, the community has us as a liability.
Prof.
Thank you. The beautiful thing about all of us, wherever we are, whether here or elsewhere in diaspora, is that we should commend ourselves for having been able to adapt and having been able to survive. Whether in to what degree is arguable, but the fact that you can leave your traditional home wherever you are in Africa and go somewhere else and land and take off and be where we are today, that is commendable. So wherever we are in diaspora, we should pat ourselves on the back and say, you know what? We have that vitality. We can survive.
Yes.
That's wonderful, number one. Number two is that my sister just talked about the change is inevitable. And the change was in our parents' lives, in our own lives, in our kids' lives. What we need to do is start asking ourselves, what kind of legacy are we passing on to these little ones, to these young people? We have to leave them something. And it doesn't mean that it's property, but it also is a knowledge. It is values. Whatever we have been able to accumulate. Of course, you can't go with them in those graves I talked about earlier. You're going to leave it behind. So we're going to make sure that whatever we leave behind is going to be guided and protected and used well, so it can go through these generations ahead of time. Simply put, what legacy are we leaving behind? Because we're going to go. Are we leaving these kids in good hands? We're going to be able to look back and say, they are doing okay. Are we leaving them these houses and they won't sell them? Are we leaving them these lands back home and they won't do this? So I think that's a discussion we need to have. Number three, finally, is we need to use every little opportunity we have, including this forum, to start talking to each other, have this dialogue of we in diaspora, we are going to be able to succeed here. But how do we do that unless we unite? And talk about some of the things that are critical, because some things just unite us. The fact that we have to go through all these challenges in America to succeed, that should be a uniting factor right there. The fact that we don't know what 401k is and we need to know, that's a uniting factor over there. So I think in this unity, let's put in there things that will make it easier for people to come. What will induce them to come? So we can all get together and talk about these issues. Churches, civic groups, or the work we're doing in the community, and you too, Pastor. All the things that we're doing, let's try to at least reach out to people and say, look, we need to start talking about these things. Here's this forum over here. Go to church. Let our ministers not only talk about going to heaven, which we haven't been there yet, but let them also talk about what do we do here while we're here, so we can be able to go knowing that what we leave behind is in good hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Retiring.
Yeah.
The case of an immigrant. It is not an easy topic. We have been trying to tinker with it, and I thank my guest. What we have been talking about is financial literacy. We need to build a community. Think about tomorrow. What legacy are we leaving for our kids? And we will not stop this conversation. As a matter of fact, we have just begun. And we will keep at it until we get all the voices and all the heads and all the minds to listen, so that we can make informed decisions. I have been discussing this issue with Reverend Dr. Sabia Buaji. She's a Presbyterian minister. Professor Zach is from Kenya, and he's a professor at Ohio State. Lindora Kolu Howard Diawara, she works for a nonprofit. She's here. She works for City of Columbus, but she's representing a nonprofit organization that she works for. Is it B for
B4B co-founder? I'm the founder. And
Founder.
executive director.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And Chancellor Albert Aqua has also been chiming in with his expertise. Well, we have come to the end of the broadcast. So whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is genuine, whatever is true, if there is any praiseworthy, think about these things. We will talk to you next week, again next weekend, and I will send you a teaser of what we're going to be talking about. Thank you for listening in and watching.